Today, we are going to talk about safety. Safety must be observed first, last, and always. In the lab, you don't want to end up injured because of carelessness.
Like, what kind of safety are you talking about? Do I need to protect my eyes, or clothing, or something like that?
First, safety goggles and an apron must be worn while conducting experiments. There's no excuse for injured eyes, because eye protection should always be worn.
But, what if I wear contact lenses?
When goggles are worn, it is recommended that contact lenses not be worn. It's always possible that a small amount of corrosive material might flow under the edge of a contact lens and cause permanent damage to the eyes.
What about my feet? How can I keep them from getting injured or splashed on?
You should wear shoes that will protect your feet from chemical spills.
What about my favorite shoes that show the color of my toenail polish? Or in the spring when I wear flip-flops or sandals? Are they allowed in the lab?
You must wear sturdy, safe footwear that completely covers your feet.
So like, is there anything that I need to bring with me to forensics class?
You are personally accountable for coming to forensics class prepared with the following items: a pen, a pencil, closed-toed shoes, and a hair tie if you have long hair.
What kind of clothing should I wear for the class and while we're doing a lab?
Do not wear your favorite clothes. Avoid bulky or loose sleeves and dangling jewelry.
What about the labs? Do I get to work by myself, or will I be stuck with other people?
Never work alone in the laboratory. An instructor must always be present. Do only the experiment assigned to you by your instructor. Follow all written and oral directions. Use only materials and equipment authorized by the teacher. Work quietly in the lab. Refrain from any unnecessary talking.
So I won't be able to talk about the parties last weekend, or the ones coming up this weekend? How will I be able to keep up on who everyone is dating?
You must be able to hear any special directions from your teacher. Accidents happen when people get careless. You must be 100% focused on the assigned task, so you don't hurt yourself or others.
So, what do I bring to the lab station work area? I might get hungry, you know. Can I bring a snack?
Only lab notebooks and pens or pencils are permitted at your lab station. Backpacks, coats, extra books, and other items should be left at your desk. Never eat or drink in the laboratory. Never taste the chemicals. Never put anything in your mouth while you are in the lab.
What happens if I need to wipe my eyes, or something like that?
Because there is a chance you may have a chemical on your hands, always keep your hands away from your face, mouth, and eyes. Never touch chemicals with your hands, unless you were instructed to do so.
What about when you can't smell the chemicals, or if they produce a vapor?
Use the fume hood when you are directed to do so, as the hood removes toxic vapors and irritating odors from the lab. When asked to smell a vapor, do so with great care. Gently fan or waft some of the vapor toward you, and sniff carefully. Don't inhale deeply.
Will we be using any glassware? What happens if some glass is broken by accident?
Always place broken glass in the designated glass container. Dispose of other waste materials according to the directions of your lab instructor.
Do we get to light anything on fire, or blow things up?
You will be using a Bunsen burner. Avoid touching hot objects. Glassware may be very hot, but not visibly change color. In the event of an emergency alarm, turn off the Bunsen burner before you evacuate the lab.
What else do I need to know about working in the lab? What happens if my hands get wet from stuff while I'm working on the lab?
Be sure your hands are dry before using electrical equipment. Do not let electrical cords dangle from workstations. Do not use electrical equipment with frayed cords. Help keep the laboratory clean at all times. At the conclusion of the lab period, wash and dry your lab table, and return all equipment to the proper place. Wash your hands and arms thoroughly with soap and water before leaving the lab area.
What happens if I get injured, cut, or get a little scrape on my finger?
immediately report all injuries to your teacher, no matter how minor the injury might seem. Since any cut or wound in the lab must be considered serious and treated carefully, immediately notify your instructor. Whether or not the lab instructions remind you, all of these rules apply all of the time. I will now conduct the first demonstration.
What happens if, even though I was following all the rules and I was being careful, I have a lab accident, like a spill, or I break something, or I get burned?
If there is an accident, the most important thing to remember is to immediately tell your teacher. Fast action on your part will minimize the danger and damage. You must know the location and how to operate all safety equipment in a lab, like the safety shower, the eye wash station, the fire blanket, the spill control package, and where the fire extinguishers, aprons, and safety goggles are.
What do I do if I spill chemicals on the lab table or the floor?
Notify your instructor, who will advise you of the appropriate cleanup technique to use. The spill control package contains neutralizers for acidic or alkaline base spills and absorbent material to soak up liquids that can then be swept up with the broom and dustpan. Also, common household chemicals can be used for neutralizers. Sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, can be used to neutralize acidic spills, and acetic acid, also known as vinegar, can be used to neutralize alkaline spills.
What do I do if I accidentally get chemicals in my eyes or on my face?
If a chemical splashes on your face while you are wearing goggles, do not remove your goggles until you rinse your face at the eye wash station. After you remove all of the chemical from your face and goggles, take off your goggles and flush the skin where the goggles contacted your face, being careful to direct the water away from your eyes. If a chemical gets into your eye, immediately yell for help while getting to the eye wash fountain. Hold your eyelid away from your eyeball and roll your eyeball so the water flushes the entire eyeball. Continue to flush your eye with water for at least 15 minutes.
How do I react when I get a chemical on my skin or clothes?
For small spills on your skin, immediately rinse the affected area with large amounts of water for 5 to 10 minutes. If a large area of your skin is affected, use the safety shower. When you get chemicals on your clothing, if possible, immediately remove all affected clothing. Drench the skin contacted by the contaminated clothing with plenty of water. For large spills, immediately use the safety shower. Your lab instructor will supervise your use of the shower.
If I burn myself, or a fire starts in the lab, what should I do?
Immediately notify your instructor of burns from hot objects, flames, or chemicals, and should all be treated in the same way. Flush the affected area with cool, running water. If your hair or clothing is on fire, use the stop, drop, roll, yell technique for putting out the flames. Stop what you are doing, drop to the floor, roll to try and smother the flames, yell for others to help quickly. Extinguish the fire using the fire blanket. Another alternative would be to drench the fire with water if a sink or safety shower is nearby. While you are receiving aid, another student should try to shut off or reduce the fuel supply to the original fire.
So all the people in my class need to be aware of everything and everyone around them and help out when necessary? What happens if the fire continues to burn after the fuel source is turned off?
If the fire is still burning, direct the spray from a fire extinguisher at the base of the fire. If the fire cannot be quickly extinguished, everyone should leave the lab and activate the nearest fire alarm. I will now conduct demonstration number 2.
Are there any special rules for handling the chemicals? What do I need to look for, and how do I handle any spills?
Read labels carefully. Make certain that you have the desired reagent. Always double-check by reading the label twice. Use the specified concentration and form of the chemical. Know the hazards associated with the substance you are using. Look for the National Fire Protection Association diamond-shaped hazard rating on the label of the reagent.
What do I do after I am done taking and using the chemicals?
Take only the specified amount of each substance. Never return unused chemicals to their original containers. If you obtain too much of a chemical, consult your teacher for disposal instructions. Leave chemicals in their proper places. Do not take the dispensing bottle to your lab station. Clean up all spills immediately.
What happens if chemicals are put into a different container? How do I look up the hazards of a chemical?
Label all containers to identify their contents. Know the location of the material safety data sheets, MSDS, for all chemicals. These sheets provide information regarding the nature of each chemical and procedures for its safe handling. Federal law requires that these sheets be available. Also, never leave the cover off a chemical when you are finished using it. To do so may cause contamination of the chemical, rendering it useless. Serious injuries may also result from lids left ajar or off the chemical.
I can't follow these rules. Forensics class sounds awesome.